So I'm going to do something new today, which is a sort of book review. And the book in question is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. Now, when I read books, and some people say they make notes, but I just write down my favorite quotes from the book. And I find that is the best way for me to get what I want out of the book. Like, I don't read a book and sort of piece together the plot or, yeah, I don't know. I don't really see books as necessarily a puzzle, but as just things that reveal truth. And for me, the simplest way that books do that is just through their direct quotes. It's not necessarily the whole vibe of a book, though that can be beneficial. Like, a book can be more than the sum of its parts, but I do think that breaking it down into its specific parts gets to the heart of what a book is. And in some ways, a single quote is like the purest form of writing. So I haven't really done this before, but my plan is to just read out my favorite quotes from this book and either add some of my own thoughts or discuss them or not. If I don't really have anything to say, I'm sort of doing this on the fly. This is the first time I've read any Oscar Wilde book, and yeah, the first time I've read The Picture of Dorian Gray, so don't have as much of an in-depth understanding as maybe people who've read it multiple times, or yeah, more times. I've read it at different points in different years. So I've only just read it once over the space of about 2 weeks. But these are my favorite quotes from my first time through, and we'll get into it. So the first few are from sort of the intro or the foreword. So I'm not sure if the first four were written as part of the novel or not, but I found them interesting anyway. So the first one is, "The artist is the creator of beautiful things. To reveal art and conceal the artist is art's aim." And yeah, there's more stuff about beautiful things and creating beautiful things for their own sake. But yeah, the second line for me is interesting. "To reveal art and conceal the artist is art's aim." As someone who's a bit of an amateur writer, it's I think when you're trying to write, like, the first thing you do is write your experience, and then you can get creative with that, and you have creative license. But to take something from your own experience, your own perception, which is the beginning of everything that you internalize, like everything that you think is the result of your own perception. And yes, there's a lot of things in this world that try to influence your perception, but whatever you are thinking, or however you want to describe an experience, is basically it's your perception only. It's not coming from anyone else. But as an artist, you have to transition that to the point where it reads as if it's not just you telling your story. You're meant to reveal art, reveal the world, and it's not just about yourself. I think like another version of this quote was in Westworld, where it was, I can't remember exactly, but it was about a story and how the only thing the story says is about the person that wrote it, not about the world, which is uninteresting. And yeah, it's like, I wrote one novel, and they say the first novel you write is very personal and there's too much of yourself in it. And I think rereading it, it definitely seems like that. Or it's almost like a little painfully revealing, or not as objective as great works of art, great novels. So yeah, I think it's just a good understanding to note that the purpose of the artist is to conceal themselves. Anyway, moving on. Those who find ugly meanings in beautiful things are corrupt without being charming. This is a fault. Those who find beautiful meanings in beautiful things are the cultivated. For these there is hope. Which is very interesting in modern times with inversion and inversion of beauty and beauty standards and all these things. Like it's probably something that was happening a lot in the 2010s. This I don't know, like the equality, like all acceptance, like, and then getting to a point where you're having like models be like deliberately obese people or just not objectively beautiful, and and yeah, and saying like that beautiful people, beautiful things are ugly, and it's like it is interesting. I think just that he's called this out, like beautiful things are beautiful, um, and if people are finding ugly meanings in beautiful things, then they're at fault. Then that they don't have hope because they're not seeing like the real beauty of this world, and they're trying to corrupt what beauty is. Moving on, there is no such thing as a moral or immoral book. Books are well written or badly written, that is all. This, again, is a very timely issue at the moment with morality around books, and I think like most books written now in the 2020s are very poor. And if there are good books that have been written, then you know, I have not had access to them or the awareness that they exist. It almost seems like the books that get, if you go to like a local bookstore or whatever, like the books that are promoted, their whole goal is to fit a agenda or like social narratives, and it's not about the actual quality of the writing. If anything, it's a bit like only the title of the book is really important. A lot of titles seem to push a social message, whatever that is. There's been so many of them, and I think in the age of social media as well, the ability of people to understand language and whether things are well written, yeah, and I'm like kind of stumbling over my words a bit, but I'm someone who appreciates a well written book. Like it just seems like the bar's lower, and if you go beyond books, like just in conversation, like there's a bit of a lost art of conversation, and people can tend to virtue signal with slogans which sort of show they don't really have a deep understanding of what they're talking about. And I think Wilde here is saying that, again, just like talking about beautiful things, saying he will read a book if it's well written. It doesn't really matter what the message is. It's that words don't have to be just the blunt instruments to push morality. Actual like poetry can be beautiful for its own sake, regardless of the subject that it's talking about. Okay, moving on. All art is at once surface and symbol. Those who go beneath the surface do so at their peril. It is the spectator and not life that art really mirrors. Okay, so the second sentence, yeah, it's a bit like a Rorschach painting, like whoever's reading the novel, whoever's consuming, I hate that word, but consuming a piece of art, they will get their own meaning out of what it means. Even myself reading these quotes, as the spectator of the art, I am sharing what it mirrors out of me. So even in my analysis of the quotes, it reveals it's a mirror to what I am, not necessarily what the novel is or what life is. And yeah, it's really interesting because like as a writer, you think, okay, all art is at once surface and symbol. Those who go beneath the surface do so at their own peril. So you don't want to get necessarily too specific about what you're writing about, but you're playing on the surface, as Wilde has done very well with this novel, and then the reader's putting meaning onto the text. And it makes me think about some, more instead of minimalist style, like maximalist style novels, and if that is, are they going beyond the surface because they're talking about every detail, or is that still surface but just in a different style? And perhaps that is the case, that it is still surface. And you can kind of conceptualize how this makes sense, but actually executing that is another, like another, 10 levels down. Like you do wonder like how, Wilde and other authors can pull that off where, and he's sort of like giving in this introduction, these quotes, it's like explaining how he's putting his art together. So I wouldn't even say it's easy to conceptualize. It's like moderately challenging to conceptualize, but once you do conceptualize it, it's another thing to actually execute it. Moving on, the only excuse for making a useless thing is that one admires it intensely. Yeah, so this harks back to the original quote, the artist is the creator of beautiful things, and talking about things that are beautiful versus practical, and that one should admire their art, which is useless, but it is useful in the sense that you admire it. And I think at the moment in society, it seems like people are spinning their wheels trying to make enough money to survive, and perhaps that's gone out of it, the ability to just create things. And I think just with all the attention people give away to their phones, like not even to reading much anymore, they don't have any energy left over to create. So good reminder to create art when you can. Moving on, look at the successful men in any of the learned professions, how perfectly hideous they are, except of course in the church. But then in the church they don't think. A bishop keeps saying at the age of 80 what he was told to say when he was a boy of 18. And as a natural consequence, he always looks absolutely delightful. Well, okay, so successful men look hideous because I guess they have to weather the cost of their experience. But in the church they don't, because they're just repeating the same lines that they said at 18. So they're basically stagnated at 18 and just repeated those phrases throughout their life. And they look delightful because they are, I guess, youthful and ignorant as a result. Yeah, so age of stagnation is definitely a thing. And I do notice that not just gradually as people get older, but I think maybe around middle age, like maybe 40s to 50s, like once people get over that age, they tend to really harden into their personalities and don't change too much after that. So if you're successful in a learned profession, yeah, you just have to have that burden on you and you look hideous. But if you are perhaps ignorant, you just get even more ignorant the older you get. All right. If they knew nothing of victory, they are at least spared the knowledge of defeat. They live as we all should live, undisturbed, indifferent, and without disquiet. Your rank and wealth, my brains, Gray's looks, we shall all suffer from what the gods have given us, suffer terribly. Well, yeah, I guess, again, it's sort of about ignorance, that it's like people go about their lives and like, I guess the stakes of whatever life they live, like they take that to mean like that is all that is at stake in this world, without knowing that others have defeated them in a sense. Like some people are like living lives that other people would consider hellish, but the people living those lives are not really aware of that. They think maybe that they've won, and they're indifferent, like they're not disturbed by their existence. But yeah, there's people like in this world who have victory, but then again, those people who have rank and wealth or brains or looks, they will suffer from what the gods have given them, suffer terribly. So yeah, I guess going back to the previous quote about successful men in learned professions being horrible or like hideous, like that's the burden of their intellect. Everyone will have, even the gifted will, those gifts will take away from them as they do to Dorian in this novel. Moving on, I have grown to love secrecy. It seems to be the one thing that can make modern life mysterious or marvelous to us. The commonest thing is delightful if only one hides it. Yes, and this can be like with relationships or addictions or vices. Like I think people love the secrecy of them as much as they love the actual vice. There's, I think in Infinite Jest, there's a line about how secretly getting high, but then he thinks he just loves the secrecy of it more than the actual high. So, yes, definitely true. Moving on, I believe that you are really a very good husband, but that you are thoroughly ashamed of your own virtues. You never say a moral thing, and you never do a wrong thing. Your cynicism is simply a pose. Yeah, interesting. I think at the moment there's a lot of people who seem very cynical, but the most cynical are those that believe that, there's a possibility for a good world. People who are kind of happy and accept what life is like at the moment. Like either their imagination has been relinquished, or they just don't believe in a better world. Like they don't see anything wrong. They can't imagine like life being better. So when you are cynical, when you do have complaints about the world, like when you want it to be better, that is often because you are quite good and you want the best for yourself and the people around you. You wish things were better. And sometimes there is that inverse, like those that, yes, accept everything and like promote the moral virtues of the day, can be the most immoral people, and the reverse can be true as well. Okay, every portrait that is painted with feeling is a portrait of the artist, not the sitter. The sitter is merely the accident, the occasion. It is not he who is revealed by the painter. It is rather the painter who, on the coloured canvas, reveals himself. The reason I will not exhibit this picture is that I am afraid that I have shown in it the secrecy of my own soul. Well, yes, because if you think about, the Picture of Dorian Gray, any painting of a person, it is actually the artist doing the brushstrokes, and in this instance, the artist is fearful that he has betrayed himself in that work. And I think it is a bit of the artist's mindset, that once the artist is aware that he is attempting to conceal his own art, that once he makes any piece of art, he's going to be very self-conscious that he's betraying himself, which is the case here, as Dorian does not see the artist at all in the art. He sees himself, and he loves himself in the work. So yes, it makes sense. It's say with writing, like not necessarily painting, but with writing, any writing about a subject will reveal the writer, not the subject matter, unless the writer is exceptional. But then it will reveal that the writer is exceptional, and you can read about any topic if the writer is good enough. Okay. Anybody, even a stockbroker, can gain a reputation for being civilized. Yes. Appearances matter, and yes, there's a lot of LARPers out there, or live action role players, people who act in a certain way and play on the expectations of people. Like, one example is like wearing suits. Like, basically anyone could wear a suit, and you could think that they're civilized. Even it even goes to manners of speech. And I think now that we have a very illiterate society, or society that's forgotten to be literate, they are most people are very easily fooled by language, and do not realize that there's a lot of tells that people give away with their modes of speech, and they betray what they are actually trying to achieve. And yes, but if you don't have that ability to analyze that, then you can be fooled that anyone is civilized. So don't just assume depth because someone looks the part or perhaps sounds the part. Like, you really have to get into a deep understanding of who they are. Okay. You don't understand what friendship is, of what enemy is for that matter. Or that might be, or what enemy is for that matter. You like everyone. That is to say, you are indifferent to everyone. Yes, it's yeah. But there's going to be conflict in this world, like in your life, and you want to be right. That if someone has a problem with you, like, you want to be on the right side of it, and even to yourself, you don't want, like, you don't want to be like, well, like, both sides were right. Like, that's not really a great position, because it really means that you stand for nothing if that's what you think. If you don't really have values or opinions on things, I don't really believe that, well, both sides have a point, or both sides need to get over things. It's like, it really is, who is right? Who is your friend? Will you stick up for your friend? And if, your friend's in a conflict, or you're in a conflict, does your friend see that you're right? And will they stick up for you? If your friend is then friends with the enemy, like the other party, and they're just like, well, I'm friends with everyone will get along, then they don't know what friendship is. They don't know what truth is. They don't know what values are. They're just nothing. Like, they're just an entity waiting to be taken advantage of. So I think friendship, values, truth, all of that is important, and to have this mindset that you want everyone to get along at all times, it's impossible, and you will just end up being used if that's your approach. You don't. Okay, we've got the repeated quote there. It is only the intellectually lost who ever argue. Yes, debate can be good if you're amongst trusted people and you have some different points of view, and you want to find the truth for yourself, because you don't know everything in this world. Even if you know a lot, there's no way you can know everything. So it is good to hear people out, but that doesn't mean you have to agree with them. But ultimately, you don't want to endlessly argue. Like, if someone doesn't want to accept your point of view, like, if you know that you have the truth, like, that is enough. The truth will always reveal itself. You don't have to argue to get someone to see that you are correct. If you have to do that, then, and you find like it's important that other people agree, then you might not have the truth, because the argument becomes more important than what is actually correct. So if you're arguing endlessly, you may be intellectually lost. And just because you're arguing something intelligently doesn't mean that you're right or that you have the truth, because you can sort of make any intellectual argument, even with something that's completely wrong. Like, like with debating, right? So it's like debaters are trained to be able to argue both sides of the case. So at that point, truth becomes subjective, and if you're always arguing, you'll stop realizing the actual point of debate, and which is to find the truth, and you'll just start to. It'll be easier for you to be convinced that lies are the truth because you're able to argue them because you have that skill. All right, moving on. The mind of the thoroughly well-informed man is a dreadful thing. It's like a bric-a-brac shop, all monsters and dust, with everything priced above its proper value. Yeah, so I think this one is a bit like people who are very aware of the news and are well informed about everything that's going on, but it just sort of fills up your mind with monsters and dust and things that maybe some of it's true, maybe some of it's not, but you end up thinking you kind of know everything about the world when really like you're just sort of reading what people want you to think about the world. That's what we say by being well informed, like you're informed about the current events with everything priced above its proper value. So yeah, you think your thoughts are perhaps more valuable than they really are. The aim of life is self-development, to realize one's nature perfectly. That is what each of us is here for. People are afraid of themselves nowadays. They have forgotten the highest of all duties, the duty that one owes to oneself. Yes. To realize one's nature perfectly, that's very interesting because yeah, there's some very big questions in this world as to the nature of reality and the nature of each person, like what am I? And I think some of the answers to those questions will always be out of reach, especially to the nature of reality. You're not going to know everything, but it's a journey, I think, to self-develop and learn. But I think this quote is not even hitting at that level. It's just like people are afraid of themselves, and I think you see that with the flattening out of people. And say as children they have these sparks, but then as they grow up they play roles, pre-assigned roles, husband, wife, professions, things like that, fans of things, consumers, and yeah, they lose that human instinct, but also that intellectual spark as well, or that creativity. So yeah, maybe some people don't want to be creative because they see it as, unmasculine or something like that. So they don't explore that side of them. They don't explore what makes them different. And they conform into particular roles when, humanity is not built by people that are all the same. It's built by people who have slight differences and explore those differences to develop. The great events of the world take place in the brain. It is in the brain that the great sins of the world take place also. So I guess you think about all the personal development you have. So, what you were at 5 years old to 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, etc. It's all the revelations you've had, all of like the highs you've had, like it's been in the brain. And the sins, like all the things that you've thought of, like the things that you've wanted to do in your wildest dreams, or if you perhaps if you could shape the world to how you want it to be, perhaps for nefarious purposes. Again, it's not necessarily things that you do, but things that you think about, and it is a bit scary, I think, to think about the depths that the human brain can go to, and then realize that basically every person who you ever see in public, like that they could be have secrets like that go even far beyond, what you can even conceptualize or think yourself. So yeah. um, Beauty is not so superficial as thought. It is only shallow people who do not judge by appearances. The true mystery of the world is the invisible, not the visible. Yeah, well, that's very pro beauty, which ties in with talking about, the beautiful things, and to not treat them as ugly. Also interesting to consider thought superficial, especially now where it's like, well, where does your thoughts come from? Like people sort of think like they are their thoughts, but then a lot of the thoughts are programmed into them, or it's just just a fleeting thought. It's not necessarily deep. Um, Whereas beauty is sort of a product of the world. It's a product of the universe. It's not corrupted by opinions unless you put that on it, but just pure beauty in itself, it just is. It's not as twisted as your thoughts. Realize your youth while you have it. Don't squander the whole of your days. Don't squander the whole of your days listening to the tedious, trying to improve the hopeless failure, or giving away your life to the ignorant, the common, and the vulgar. These are sickly aims, the false ideals of our age. Live the wonderful life that is in you. Let nothing be lost upon you. Be always searching for new sensations. Be afraid of nothing. Yeah, well, a good message to realize your youth while you have it, but I think more importantly, it's talking about don't waste your time with hopeless failures or the ignorant, the common, the vulgar. So, yeah, you see that everywhere. Like most people in your life are these things. Like at best, like they're common. At worst, like a hopeless failure. But yeah, most people are ignorant, even like very casually vulgar. So if you have the ability to do more, then do not waste your time listening to these people or trying to help them, because they will not develop, like they will not become like you. They will not change. You like are in danger of projecting whatever spark you have onto them. And if they show you time and time and again who they are, like you just have to believe that. Yes, always search for new sensations, be afraid of nothing. And yeah, I think that's a great message, be afraid of nothing. Like the fear is the mind killer, and a lot of things you see are trying to make you afraid so you don't live. So if you can not be afraid, like you've made it this far, you'll figure out the next problem as much as it seems like there's just problems all the time now. But if you are not afraid of it, it won't be half as bad as you think. Okay, we degenerate into hideous puppets, haunted by the memory of the passions of which we were too much afraid, and the exquisite temptations that we had not the courage to yield to. Yeah, so I think like when you're young, you have those temptations, and you perhaps think that these will last forever. You'll have opportunities to do these things forever, and you do have the opportunity to do what you want with your life, so you can extend these opportunities. But in this instance, with the hideous puppets aspect of it, to me, I just see this as like one example would be just people getting married, and they play those roles, and they might be haunted by the temptations with the opposite sex, and beyond that, just the ability to be free and to do what you want. And once the spark of the marriage like goes out, then you are haunted by the passions that slowly extinguish as time time goes on. You think you're being responsible by ignoring them, but then you realize perhaps what you've given up by choosing not to do that, and that you've betrayed yourself. Okay. An age grossly carnal in its pleasures and grossly common in its aims, which is very relevant now, I think. Yes, very carnal in its pleasures. You could, yeah, dating culture or music, movies, like everything's very carnal, and then grossly common in its aims. I think, yeah, in terms of like bigger aims people have, it's like all about having not even money, but like just having like a property and then like getting married, although that's sort of not as universal anymore. But you don't see a lot of people who have aims to be creative or, yeah, to do something new. There's some like artists, I guess, but then even their aims become common, like amongst artists. Like you don't um, see a lot of pure creativity and different aims. To get back one's youth, one has merely to repeat one's follies. Well, yeah, I guess to stay young, act like you're young. You know, age age is definitely real, but it's not. It's more in your behavior and action than how long you've been alive for. Nowadays, most people die of a sort of creeping common sense and discover when it is too late that the only things one never regrets are one's mistakes. Yeah, well, I mean, you regret your mistakes when they happen, but when you look back on things when the impact of the mistake doesn't hurt you as much, it's what you remember. Um, and I think playing it safe all the time gets boring. So, yeah, I don't think you want to be reckless, but you just want to keep life fresh. And if you try things, like, you'll make mistakes, but the beauty is you'll also learn from them. So, again, life is very inverted sometimes, that doing the right thing leads to a bad outcome, and sometimes doing the wrong thing can lead you to the right path. Nowadays, people know the price of everything and the value of nothing. Yes, so again, an example of that is property, where people obsess over how much it costs, and then maybe even renovations and how much that costs. And it's like, it's all about how much everything costs, and not actually that the fact that that's a means to an end, and the value of the end and what you're even here for. It's like everything has to go through money. My dear boy, the people who love only once in their lives are really the shallow people. What they call their loyalty and their fidelity, I call either lethargy of custom or their lack of imagination. Faithfulness is to the emotional life what consistency is to the life of the intellect. Simply a confession of failure. Faithfulness. The passion for property is in it. There are many things that we would throw away if we were not afraid that others might pick them up. Yes, the last line, it's a bit like jealousy being a key factor for marriage, and that I think men especially get married because like they can't stand the thought of their partner being with someone else. Um, but then it's like, well, it's not really so bad if you had to let them go. But it's that fear again, the fear that causes um, people to hold on to their partners, hold on to their jobs, their lives. I think everything that you do can become boring after a while, and you need to change things, like change jobs or like change hobbies. Like, for me, it's like trying to make some videos, and getting that creative spark out is good for me to, develop some skills and keep things fresh. But I've never really done it like every day, which, you see people like on YouTube or whatever, and they've made like yeah, they've basically spent like at least their whole 20s and beyond like making videos. And yeah, it's like I think at some point it's like, well, if they're always in the same format, or it's like you're not really sharing anything new, it's like that you might say, oh, you're faithful to your craft, but you you probably could have been better off doing something else and developing your skills that way, and then even coming back to it if you want to. And if you talk about back to the quote, like talking about love, it's yeah, I do find that like people who are sort of in love once, they're very arrogant about it. Like they think they, I don't know, like they just think they're better than you. They think that they chose right the first time. But yes, they do have a lack of imagination. Again, a bit like the person who's defeated but doesn't know it and is ignorant. And perhaps they'd be better off if they had different experiences with different people. Perhaps not. But yeah, it's a bit of a, it just gets a bit boring, a bit stale, and you've given away your entire life, like all the possibility that you could do for the thing that you had when you were young. People are very fond of giving away what they most need themselves, right? So for me, this might be advice or my analysis on things. Maybe I need advice and analysis of myself. Um, but yeah, I find that. And it's might even be like people who you see this a bit online, like someone complains like they're going through something rough, and like someone says like, if you I'm always up for a chat if like you ever need it. And it's like, well, that person is probably the one who needs a chat themselves. Like they probably need a friend themselves, but they like put themselves out there that they're giving, like, or people who are in like the mental health space that normally the one like working, they're normally the ones who need mental health help as well. So it's a good tell. It sort of goes hand in hand with projection, I think. So if you see what people are putting out, what they say they're offering, perhaps that's what they need. So yeah, I think yeah, Oscar Wilde is a good writer because like there's things like these little truths, and they just sort of sharpen your perception of how you are living your life. Well, that's at least how I read. The only artists I have ever known who are personally delightful are bad artists. Good artists exist simply in what they make and are consequently perfectly uninteresting in what they are. Yeah. I think there's a lot of bad artists, and then they put on this show that they are artists, and they like have circles where it's a bit of a circle jerk. Like they all uh, get to play along that they're all good artists, but it's like if you really were a good artist, you would let your art do the talking, or you wouldn't. You're living life in such a pure way that you just live as an artist and be art and make it, but then you don't even need like the recognition. Okay, and then the bad artist lives the poetry he cannot write. The others write poetry that they dare not realize. So yeah, again, that the bad artist is more interested in living the life of an artist than actually producing good art. The basis of optimism is sheer terror. We think that we are generous because we credit our neighbor with the possession of those virtues that are likely to be a benefit for us. This is a very, very good insight. And I think you can see this in terms of like different cultures and just this like acceptance, like, oh, okay, well, like people want to be perceived that they are all welcoming um, of people from other cultures that they have no idea about. Um, and it might not even be that. It might even just be like just people they don't know, and like they just put this like positive spin on who they are, and it's like they're hopeful that they're going to be a benefit to them because they're scared that if they're not, like what the consequences of that are. So Yeah, I think you see this just with a lot of delusional people. Like, you just look at them and you wonder, like, how you, like, do you not see that you're perhaps not on the right track? Or, like, they'll tell you, like, their plans. You're like, well, like, what? Like, it doesn't make any sense, but they won't hear a bad word about, themselves or, like, the a broader macro situation. Like, they can't analyze things accurately because they're deep down they're afraid that things won't go well, and they're too far off from actually equipping themselves to deal with that, so they default to optimism. She spoke the words as if they conveyed no meaning to her. It was not nervousness. Indeed, so far from being nervousness, she was absolutely self-contained. It was simply bad art. She was a complete failure. So I think this was with a performance, and the actress is just saying the words. She's she's not performing bad because she's nervous. She's just bad. um, and I think it's important to note when people are bad, or if you're bad, because then you can recognize what good is, and you can get better if it's you. But I think now it's anytime something's bad, there has to be some kind of concession, or it's actually good, or like you didn't understand the meaning. It's like, no, like this is just bad. There is a luxury to self-reproach. When we blame ourselves, we feel that no one else has a right to blame us. It is the confession, not the priest, that gives us absolution. When Dorian had finished the letter, he felt that he had been forgiven. Yeah, so it's like people get on the front foot, and um, they own up to what they did. Even if it's not like the end of the world, but like they'll, like, say you're playing sport, right? And like you have a player who plays bad, and then he'd be like, "Oh, like my bad, guys, that's on me," and it's like okay, but like you still were bad, and yeah, I've definitely feel like I've had this in relationships where like girls will apologize, but then like when you actually like you criticize them, or like you're like, yeah, like that wasn't good, then they get annoyed, and it's like people try to avoid criticism by criticizing themselves, but then yes, they get absolution, so they don't then feel the need to change. The only way a woman can ever reform a man is by boring him so completely that he loses all possible interest in life. Yeah, and this is most married couples. Like, it's a gradual process where the man just gets ground down and loses any sort of dreams or hopes that he had, and it won't happen immediately, but over a long enough time frame it will. And you have to stay young, and you have to stay adventurous and free, and if you don't, you will get old and you will get bored. Good resolutions give us now and then some of those luxurious sterile emotions that have a certain charm for the weak. Um, yeah, so people are kind of like sinning or being lazy, and then they're like, well, okay, well, I'll do something good, and then yeah, they feel good about the resolution without actually doing the work. The charm of the past is that it is the past, but women never know when the curtain has fallen. They always want a sixth act, and as soon as the interest of the play is entirely over, they propose to continue it. They are charmingly artificial, but they have no sense of art. Yeah, well, that's a pretty damning statement on women, but um, yeah, look, I think the charm of the past is that it is the past. Is in life you have experiences, and then they end, and then it's good to move on and not to dwell on the past. And when you're young, that's very painful to have to get over things, but then I feel like the older I get, the more I can move on. Like, I had a job that just recently wrapped up, and it was like not disappointing. It was like, this was a good 6 months. Now I'm on to the next adventure, next opportunity. So, yes, just because something is good does not mean you have to hold on to it forever. Um, because life is very long, and if you make decisions that lock you into a way of life that you can never get out of, then you are not really living as an artist. You are not living with the beauty of the world. You are trying to control it and control situations. Nothing makes one so vain as being told that one is a sinner. I don't know. It's just pretty funny, that one. The girl never really lived, and so she never really died. Yes, and this is like this. It's interesting because I guess a lot of this book so far is talking about like how sin or like being vain is good. It makes you feel alive, and that even though by the end Dorian, yeah, he's corrupted his soul. It is making the point that, well, hey, if you never corrupt your soul, you never do anything, you never live, like then you're just dead anyway. So it's like you almost in life you have to be a bit corrupt, but then still choose choose the good side. What is done is done. What is past is past. You call yesterday the past. Yeah. So there's like people who don't want to talk about the past. So like, I'm only looking to the future, but it's like, no, you have to reckon with what you've done. And if, you're like a gambling addict, say, and it's like, well, I'm not doing that anymore. It's like, well, yesterday you lost $10,000. It's like, well, yeah, so you are still doing it. And it's like when people have that mindset, then it's just another way for them to not be self-reflective and not self-improve and find excuses. Even now, I cannot help feeling that it is a mistake to think that the passion one feels in creation is ever really shown in the work one creates. Art is always more abstract than we fancy. Yeah, and it's very interesting because I've found with writing that what you produce is far from what you imagined, or to get it close to what you imagined is a lot of work. Like the first draft or first 10 drafts of something, it takes a long time to gradually get things to the passions of your imaginations. Like, yeah, far out. It is a phenomenal challenge, and I think unless you're doing that, unless you're trying to turn your imagination, your passions into real things in the real world, you don't really understand that. And yeah, I guess it is funny that like that life and art and what is created is not. It comes from passion, comes from imagination, but it will never like fully recreate that. Yet, as has been said of him before, no theory of life seemed to him to be of any importance compared with life itself. He felt keenly conscious of how barren all intellectual speculation is when separated from action and experiment. He knew that the senses, no less than the soul, have their spiritual mysteries to reveal. Yeah, and life is for living. It's well, apparently all good things, like all of life's big events happen in the brain. But you do have to experience life to enhance that. You cannot only be intellectual. People talk about man's secret vices. There are no such things. If a wretched man has a vice, it shows itself in the lines of his mouth, the droops of his eyelids, the molding of his hands, even. So this is we're getting to like the main purpose of the novel, which is that Dorian has the painting wear all the sins instead of his own body. And yeah, Oscar Wilde very much, he seems to contend that you should judge a book by its cover, and that if one sins, you can see it on their face. And it is interesting, I think. You might not see it on young people, but the older you get, it's like the more you get the face you deserve. It is the face of my soul. Christ, what's a thing I must have worshipped? It has the eyes of a devil. Okay, so Dorian makes some sinful decisions, and he does it with the bargain that the painting will bear the brunt of that, and not his own face and body. But I think that line's interesting. Christ, what a thing I have worshipped. So, say he's sinning, which is worshipping the devil. It's like talking about when you sin, the impact that it has on your soul. You are worshipping something horrid by doing that. One's days were too brief to take the burden of another's errors on one's shoulders. Each man lived his own life and paid his own price for living it. Absolutely, that's a great point. And yeah, try not to let another's errors burden you. Structurally, it's important not to let that happen, but also just mentally do not take on other people's mistakes, because you have to deal with your own at some point. It is a sad truth, but we have lost the faculty of giving lovely names to things. My one quarrel is with words. That is the reason I hate vulgar realism in literature. The man who would call a spade should be compelled to use one. It is the only thing he is fit for. Yeah, and this is going back to that art is beautiful for the sake of it, and that this ultra realism is not beautiful and does not enhance life. Skepticism is the beginning of faith. Yes, because if you just have blind faith without skepticism, then you don't really believe anything because it hasn't been tested. But it's almost like the skeptic, once you really question something, you can begin to have faith because you find the truth in it. And yes, you should thoroughly investigate everything, and if something has lies, you should explore that and acknowledge when there are lies. But if you are a good skeptic, you will find that the things that have truth will draw you in. And yeah, your skepticism does not mean that you are necessarily rejecting something, but that you are investigating it. So if you've thoroughly investigated and questioned something and found truth in it, you're going to be much more faithful than if you were just faithful by default. I assure you, we can't bear mediocrities. We women, as someone says, love with our ears, just as you men love with your eyes, if you ever love at all. Love with their ears. Yeah, so women love with their ears. They like hearing men speak in a sophisticated way. It's true. Women also love with their eyes as well, but they do love with their ears, and I think that's sort of why there's a lot of smooth talkers out there. It's a bit tricky. I think now women are just overloaded with, or overstimulated, as they would say these days. So you perhaps don't get as much opportunity to show off your speech, but know if you do that they will be impressed by it. Like the painting of a sorrow, a face without a heart. If a man treats life artistically, his brain is his heart. Yes, you feel things in the brain. It's like thinking and feeling become the same thing. What does it profit a man if he gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Yeah, so it's like, yeah. Do you believe in eternal life? Like, you can get all the material things in this world, but if you lose yourself, like, you're sort of broken from when you started. Like, you're better off having your soul intact than compromising yourself for the material things of this world. Art has no influence upon action. It annihilates the desire to act. It is superbly sterile. Yeah, so art will stop you in your tracks, I guess, to analyze it, get intellectual, and not make you act. What was youth at best? A green, unripe time, a time of shallow moods and sickly thoughts. So, yeah. So, after going on about how critical youth was and not to waste it, then at the end, there's another point of view, which is that it was an unripe time, a time of shallow moods and sickly thoughts, like, vulgar, being vulgar and sinful, and that was youth at its best. So it's perhaps saying that youth is not all it's cracked up to be, and that, you know, despite all these temptations, that you should maintain your soul, but then also says, like, well, you haven't really lived, so it is like living is costly, but if you don't do it, then you're dead already. But given like the weight of these energies, like, it's perhaps best to not worship something horrid and to have faith instead. But then, at the end, then at the same time, it's like, well, you don't waste your youth as well. So he sort of presents both sides of it, but I think in the end, having faith, post skepticism, and keeping your soul intact is the right way forward in life. But yeah, thank you if you've listened this far. It's a bit of an arduous task to get through all of the quotes, but it's very thought provoking. And I've read a lot of books and written down a lot of quotes, so I might try and do this again. But it is interesting now, I think, to discuss them, and I've got like an hour's worth of discussion out of writing down the quotes from the book. So it's like, sometimes when you read, like, it can be pleasurable, but I think it is good to have all the nuggets in one place, like, so you're not, because you don't want to necessarily read The Picture of Dorian Gray like 50 times. I'm sure some people would love that, but because it is a fantastic book. But for me, it has been good to sit down and do this and really review all of the ideas and, yeah, some of the contradictions, but some of the truths about life. And yeah, with all these classic books, they tell you more about the world you live in now than like a book that was the average book that's been released this year that you would find in a bookshop. But anyway, thank you for listening. You've made it this far, and I'll see you on the next one.